Hello YouTube, this is Jonathan, and today we are going to be taking a look at one of my favorite things to do in Axis and Allies as the Axis powers, and that is Operation Barbarossa. Now this is a version of the game. This is Axis and Allies 1940 Global 2nd Edition, Europe half of the map specifically, uh, that I have not had a chance to play, but Barbarossa is one of my favorite things. I regularly, firmly believe that the game is won or lost uh, with this battle between Germany and the Soviet Union. Yes, there are other things that can happen. I mean, the late game, very dramatic things can happen. But if you want a decisive victory, and in a game that isn't going to last, a really, really long time, this is where it is over here. And I know there are a lot of videos out there on Sea Lion. Sea Lion is a very dramatic thing. If you can pull it off, it is nice. It does knock England out, at least for a turn longer if you can hold on to it. However, in this version of the game, as soon as you take England, the Soviet Union can declare war on you, and the US is pulled into the war. So if you've expended a bunch of your resources to take out the UK, that's great, but now you don't have, you're a hollow shell over here. You've got the Russian bear that hasn't had to worry about you at all bearing down. You also have to devote resources just to defending England for the United States. Now, the US might be fighting Japan, but the fact is that if you've devoted a ton of resources against England, that's fewer resources that you can devote to other things. And so I tend to view that less favorably than just going for Russia. So we're going to walk through a few things that we could do as I've been devising this strategy. There are some things that are a little bit risky. I mean, there isn't anything that is, there really should be a lost battle. However, casualties, especially up here taking out the British Navy, could be a little bit higher than maybe we're used to. But the goal, in fact, there are a couple of strategic objectives, high-level things that we want to keep in our mind as we're doing all of this. One is that we just need to keep England at bay. It really doesn't matter if we lose a bunch of our air force, as long as we're able to keep them at bay for the first couple of turns. We, of course, would prefer to lose fewer planes than more planes, but the objective is to keep England away as long as possible. The objective is not to save our air force. Our second objective is going to be to help Italy the first couple turns to the greatest extent reasonably possible. Now, the reason for that is because we aren't going to be able to devote much at all to them after turn 3. That's when we're going to attack the Soviet Union. And so they're pretty much going to be left on their own. And if we have not helped them, if they aren't in a position to at least hold the line, then we're going to have issues down here. But if we help them, they might be in a position to actually cause some damage and expand on their own and help us defend France while we are mostly busy fighting the Soviet Union. And then the third objective, which really has two parts to it, is that we want to keep the Soviet Union guessing. Now, I say there are two parts because part one, we don't necessarily want to tip our hand too obviously about when we're going to attack. If they know what turn it is, then they know how many rounds they have to prepare. They know, well, it isn't going to be this round, so I'll build infantry. Oh, this is the round before the attack, so maybe I'll build something else. We want to keep them guessing so that they can't optimize their build as well as they might otherwise do. And they can't necessarily position their troops as well as they otherwise might do. They have to guess. And maybe they'll guess right, but we don't want them to necessarily know exactly when it's going to happen until there's nothing really we can do because we're about to attack. And the second part of that goes along with it is we don't necessarily want them to know exactly where the main thrust is going to be. Or where we're going to proceed next. We want to leave our options open where possible So if they do have a large defensive wall somewhere, we're in a position where we can just bypass it rather than trying to beat our way through it. So those are going to be our goal really is to make it to Moscow. Now we will pick up factories along the way if there's an opportunity. If not, then we might just bypass that one and zip to the next factory, because the Soviets, they are able to, they have decent production. We're going to have a little bit better production than they do, but we also have to extend further from our base of operations, so our supply lines are longer. If they know where we're coming and they can just dump tons and tons of infantry there, we may make it a couple territories, but we're going to hit a wall. So if we have the ability to keep them guessing so that they're more spread out, and then to bypass their strong points, we'll just zip past their mountain of infantry, and we'll take another factory. Maybe we bypass Ukraine and we take Stalingrad, or maybe we bypass Leningrad and go through the south instead, if we've got a massive army up there. So those are our objectives. I may split this into multiple videos if the time starts to run a little bit long, but we'll see how far we can get. So on our first turn, we are going to build a destroyer. I know we aren't doing Sea Line, but we're going to build a destroyer and 3 tanks and an artillery. We're going to build the artillery because we know that we aren't going to attack Russia on turn 2, so we don't necessarily need something that can move 2 spaces to get there on our second turn. We're building the destroyer because the Soviets have a sub over here, and after our turn, our battleship's going to be out here somewhere. We're just going to have that transporting cruiser. It isn't the end of the world if we lose that, but it would be inconvenient for sure, especially if that sub hits. It gets its sneak attack, and then there is no battle. So we're going to build the destroyer just to prevent that from happening. It makes our Navy a little bit stronger. It prevents that sub from getting its sneak attack, and it actually makes our fleet a little bit stronger than theirs, actually a lot stronger, because we have the potential to scramble over here. We're going to be in 113 over here at the end of the round. So that's why we're going to build the destroyer, and the rest are land forces. Now, our attacks on England are keeping at heart that objective of we've got to help Italy. We know that England has a good likelihood of trying to do a Taranto raid and take out this battleship and cruiser. We know that it would be very helpful for Italy if it did have that navy. Even if England doesn't do that, it has the potential with its forces down here to cause Italy a lot of trouble. So we're going to try and deal with that. And this is where some of our battles up here against this navy might get a little bit risky. But bear with me here. I think you'll see where we're going. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. So we're actually going to send 2 of our subs down here. That should be easily enough to take out that cruiser. In fact, I ran the odds on it. Let's see, where did I put those? Well, I don't... Oh, there it is. There is almost a 90% chance of success, and the much more likely outcome is that we have both subs rather than just one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just remove that guy. We're going to send one of these subs over here, and then we're going to send 2 of the... Actually, neither of these subs can make it to that battle. We're going to send them both over here. Now, we really need to optimize our air power as far as this goes. So we are going to send 3 fighters, 3 tactical bombers, and our battleship over here in the tougher battle. So we've got our battleship, we've got our 3 fighters. That's a tactical bomber, but we'll just move them over there. 3 of those, 2 of those, and then there's our 3rd one. Now, as far as all of our planes go, they will all have expended 2 movement in order to get here, or in order to get into either of these battles, no more than 2 movement. The only exception would be this tactical bomber over here. It actually has to move 3. It's going to have to land in Belgium. But all of the other planes can make it back to West Germany, which is where we are more than likely going to want them. We might put one other one in Holland just to prevent the British from trying to do something annoying and take out that tactical bomber on their turn. And we'll probably move a AAA there as well. But for our purposes, all of the units have multiple movement by the time they get here, and they can all land here except for that guy. So for our other attack, the one that has the 2 subs in it, we're going to go ahead and send. We're going to send our fighter, our tactical bomber, and our 2 regular bombers. Whoops. Up there. Now, whoops, sorry about that, camera. Now, we do have odds even if the British decide to scramble in both of these battles. In fact, for our battle in 110, we have a 75% chance of success. I mean, I ran it a few times, so about 72 to 75% chance of winning with 3 units still left, even if the British scramble. If they don't, then we have a 99% chance with 6 units, which is really good. Our other battle in 111, we have around an 85% chance of success with 3 units left if they scramble. If they don't, that goes up to about 98% with 4. So we will take casualties, but the odds are in our favor, even if the British scramble. And if they scramble and lose a bunch of their fighters, then that actually helps out Italy as well, because there's nothing that can... Well, I mean, the bomber can head down this way, but that's it. We're going to send our 1 sub over here. That's about a 50-50 shot. A 2 versus a 2, no sneak attack. And then we send our 2 subs down here, and there's a very good chance that we'll take that out. So if England wants to do the Toronto raid, it's going to have to do... Or Toronto and... take out that navy. I know they like to do that along with it. They're going to have to do it without a cruiser, and if they scramble up here, they're going to have to do it without all of those fighters as well. And if we roll well, we have a transport. Maybe we'll have the potential for Sea Lion. We probably won't, because we are likely to suffer heavy casualties as well, even if, if the British scramble and lose their fighters. But it's possible. It's possible. So over here, now let's talk about combat moves. Land combat moves, rather. So we are going to move into Normandy, and actually this is going to become a real mess if I start moving all these pieces around and trying to rechip them. So I'm just going to talk you through it. We are going to move into Normandy. We are going to move 3 infantry and an artillery. Now the reason for that, we do want to make sure that we get it and that the odds are strongly on our side. We would prefer that all of our tanks are in Paris, because they're going to be 1 space closer to head back this way. So we're going to send 3 infantry and an artillery over here. The odds are on our side, about 90%, over 90%, with 3 units left. We're likely to take 1 casualty. In Paris, we're also going to hit that. They have a stronger force, so we're going to hit it with a stronger force. We're going to send in 4 infantry, 4 mechanized infantry, 3 artillery, and 6 tanks. So basically, it's everything along this border that didn't go here, plus, those 3 tanks, plus these 3 tanks over here. That's what's going to go into Paris. We have a very good chance of taking that. Over 95% chance with quite a few units, 10 to 11 units. So we should be pretty strong. All of our tanks are going to be preserved over here when we do that. Now, coming over here, we are going to move 1 guy into Bulgaria. And actually, before I forget, we're going to move 1 guy from Normandy into Finland, just to take it. We are going to send 1 infantry from Romania to Yugoslavia. We're going to send all of our infantry and our artillery from here to Yugoslavia, and either one of these tanks or one of the fighters, it really doesn't matter. Our goal is to weaken Yugoslavia. They get 5 units. We should well, there's a strong possibility of taking out 2 and a fair possibility of taking out 3 guys, and then we are going to retreat to Romania. That's why we got to send 1 guy from Romania there. We're going to ping pong it. We're going to let these guys basically move 2 spaces because they're going to move in here and then retreat over there. And we want to leave Yugoslavia for Italy and let them get that production. So we're just going to weaken it up for them. And then our guys are going to be over here where we want them. And let's see. And then we will, just because I don't want it to be a mess, 1 tactical bomber has to land here. It will be by itself at that point. And so we may land another fighter there and move an AA gun in there. So if the British decide they do want to attack, we have that AA shot and at them, and then we also have a free hit that we can just assign it to that, and we have some units defending, some strong units defending. So we may do something like that. Maybe we'll move 2 AA guns there, just depending on if they scrambled or not. Over on this side, so we are going to end up with, when it's all said and done, and I'm not going to remove casualties, this stack will be slightly weaker. You know, we'll have 1 or 2 fewer infantry. We're going to go ahead and move these guys down here. 1 of these fighters is going to come down here to help with the scramble. And we're going to go ahead and move our tanks down here as well. The 3 tanks that we have. These infantry will stay. These infantry will move over. Same with the artillery. Same with the AAA. That should do it. And then all of these guys are over on this side. We are going to move these infantry down from Denmark. I know that's a non-combat, but we're going to go ahead and do that just to solidify this front. And we'll probably, I mean, this tactical bomber really can be anywhere. I'm going to put him in Slovakia. So that's what it's going to look like end of turn 1. We're going to put that guy there, and then these guys are going to go close to the Russian front. Let me grab these tanks here. 1 moment. Like that. So, what have we done? We have helped Italy to quite an extent. Taken out that cruiser. We've given them a fighter to scramble as well. We've weakened Yugoslavia, so it's going to be easier for them to move in. We also have left them southern France. Now, it looks like I am going to have to split this into multiple videos, really just a storage issue on my phone, but 20 minutes is also a nice round number. And so I'll just say a little bit about this configuration for Italy before I stop this video, upload it, and then start a new one. So the reason that we are leaving Italy with all of this, so we're leaving them with southern France, that's worth 3 production. We're leaving them with Yugoslavia, that's worth 2. They start with 10, they're at 15. We also are going to have them take out Greece on their turn, that's 17 production. Now, that is actually 1 more production than they need, and the reason for that is just in case something happens, like maybe, I didn't set this up because it's not really relevant for this, maybe they lose Ethiopia, maybe something weird happens and they're 1 production shy of where they ought to be. 16 production, so they're at 17, that'd give them 16, is exactly the amount that they need to build an aircraft carrier on the 2nd turn. The 1st turn, they're either going to build a fighter if they need it, depending on what happens down here, or they are going to build 2 infantry and an artillery and immediately start the process of helping Germany fortify over this way. After the 1st round, the hope is that they will be in a reasonably strong position down here by their 2nd turn. Now maybe that means Germany needs to come in and help them with some things on Germany's 2nd turn, but by Italy's 2nd turn we want them to be a kind of king of the sea down here. And the carrier is going to help them significantly do that. So if they need another fighter to put on that carrier, build a fighter the 1st turn if they've lost theirs to a scramble. If not, if they have both their fighters, then they're going to build land forces and start fortifying over this way. So that is where I'm going to stop this video. While it's uploading, I'm going to go ahead and clean things up over here and then get the next one started.